I'm Tom from Do-It-Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at how to transplant an Aerogarden plant from the Aerogarden into an outdoor plant pot. And there's several reasons why you might want to do this. One is that some people actually like to use the Aerogarden to start seeds and then transfer them outside. Another reason is if you find that you put too many plants into your Aerogarden and they're not spaced out well enough. Sometimes the taller plants, for example, basil or tomatoes, can actually shade out and start to kill the smaller plants, and you can just have way too many plants in your Aerogarden at once. That's what happened to me. You can see here when I'm actually just starting here, my thyme is totally shaded out by my basil, and I talked about how I actually put too many pods in my Aerogarden and ended up with this problem. So one solution, again, can be to take them out of the Aerogarden and actually move them to a plant pot outside. And with some big plants, you might actually want to do that, like with tomatoes, just because they get too big and you want to be able to grow the plant larger, and there's just not room in the Aerogarden. It's hitting the lights, and you want to move it outside. So this is how you go about doing that. I'm just going to show a series of pictures here because I think it's easier to show over a couple of days how I did this. So first, select the plant that you're going to remove. In this case, I was working with my thyme plant, and you just want to grab the pod in there. And then you want to slowly work it out of the hole there. And the reason for that is that the roots between the different plants can actually start to get kind of matted and connected up together. So you don't want to just yank it out, or else you'll probably damage the plant and you might damage the ones around it. So you want to just sort of slowly lift it, and the roots will start to come apart, and you want to preserve as much of that root structure as you can until you have the plant totally out of the unit. Now, the next step is to take a pair of shears, something very, strong scissors. So shears are, kind of a scissors you would use in a toolkit or something. And you want to cut the pod off of the root system there. And just be very careful when you do this. It's very solid plastic, so make sure not to cut yourself. But you're just trying to kind of create some cuts in that. And then I found I had to kind of pry it open with my fingers and pop the plant out. And what you'll have at the end of that is a plant that's free of its little pod. Some people actually keep them in the pod and just plant the whole pod. I'd say it's about 50-50 divided on whether people take them out of the pod or just plant the whole pod and let the roots grow in around it. I tried both ways. With this one, though, I snipped the pod off, pulled the plant out, and then the final step, take a pot and go ahead and put gardening soil in it and sink the plant in. In this case, I'm showing you the one that I used with the pod. And if you're going to do that, you just sink the whole pod down into the soil. I put a little bit of fertilizer. I like to use Miracle-Gro Performance Organics fertilizer, and I put that around the top. And then make sure to water a lot, especially when you're first trying to establish the root system in the soil versus in the hydroponic garden. And again, this one is the one that I kept the pod on. The other one I'll not show, but I put that one in with the pod taken off, snipped off. And then you're just watering it and treating it like a normal plant, keeping it out in the sun, and it should continue to grow. Obviously, in the very beginning, you'll probably have to water it more often. Over time, as the roots start to grow out into the soil and fully set, then you should be able to water it less. You may want to start it out inside for a while too before you keep it outside and in full sun, but over time it should be just like any other plant. And again, some people actually like to use the Aerogarden as a good way to start seedlings inside and then to move them out. And I'll continue to monitor how these go, both with the one in the pot and the one out of it. And I actually did it with these herbs, but I actually did it again with some tomato plants too. And I'll show how those grow over time. And I'm excited about those because I think they're pretty big, pretty sturdy plants. And I just took them out of the Aerogarden, not because they were having issues like this little thyme plant did, but because they had grown too big for the Aerogarden and were getting kind of up into the lights. So we'll see how the tomatoes go, and we'll see how these grow outside once transplanted, both with and without the pods. But that's how you transplant a plant out of your Aerogarden hydroponic garden into a normal plant pot. If you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps.